Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're dealing with a really tough subject, the death of Liam Payne, formerly One Direction, and the media's response, particularly TMZ's coverage,
Hmm.
which has, let's just say, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah.
We'll be unpacking two articles for you, one from TMZ itself and another from Hit Channel, a music news site, to dissect exactly what went down and why there's been such a firestorm around TMZ's reporting.
Right.
Even in preparing for this deep dive, I'll be honest, I was pretty disturbed by some of the details and the way the information was presented, so I can only imagine how Liam's family and friends must be feeling right now.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Let's start with the basic facts, as reported by TMZ. Liam Payne was tragically found dead in Buenos Aires after an apparent suicide.
Right.
According to statements given by the Buenos Aires police to the Associated Press, it appears Liam jumped from his third-floor hotel balcony.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where the reporting starts to take a turn towards the sensational and frankly disrespectful.
Yeah, I agree.
TMZ mentions a preliminary autopsy report stating Liam's fall resulted in multiple injuries, both internal and external hemorrhaging. But then they delve into this unnecessarily graphic description of the scene.
Right.
They even included photos, which feels incredibly invasive and disrespectful to Liam's memory and to his grieving family.
It's awful. It's like the human element, the profound loss and grief surrounding the situation is completely disregarded in favor of grabbing attention and clicks.
Exactly. And then there's this emergency call from a hotel employee saying Liam was overwhelmed by drugs and alcohol. And that staff hadn't been able to get into his room for days.
Oh, wow.
To me, it feels like they're trying to paint a picture of Liam in the most scandalous light possible,
Yeah.
even in death.
Yeah.
Which feels absolutely exploitative.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's like, where's the line between reporting facts and exploiting a tragedy for sensationalism? It's like, it's dangerous how blurred that's becoming.
Like TMZ is prioritizing clicks and views over basic human decency and respect for the deceased. To make matters worse, TMZ published photos from inside Liam's hotel room showing what they described as a chaotic scene, a smashed TV, broken items everywhere. It's just adding insult to injury.
Oh my gosh. It's heartbreaking to think about Liam's loved ones being bombarded with these intrusive images during their time of unimaginable grief.
And to think, his poor son Bear is only 7 years old. Can you imagine being his age and seeing those photos of your dad's hotel room splashed across the internet?
No.
It's just horrifying.
It's a very real human cost to this type of journalism and how it can inflict pain and trauma long after the headlines fade.
Absolutely. It's deeply concerning that this kind of exploitative reporting seems to be becoming more commonplace, especially when it comes to celebrity deaths.
Yeah, you're right. And that's what we'll be dissecting further. So let's shift gears and look at the immediate backlash TMZ faced for their coverage, as detailed in this Hit Channel article.
They wasted no time calling out TMZ for their handling of Liam's death, labeling it as gross and deplorable.
Rightfully so.
And they weren't alone in this sentiment.
No, not at all.
It seems like people are finally recognizing the harmful impact of this kind of journalism and are demanding better, more ethical practices.
Especially when it comes to covering sensitive topics like death.
And I think what's noteworthy here is that this isn't just isolated criticism. It's a collective outcry from fans, fellow artists, and even other media outlets who are clearly fed up with this type of reporting.
Yeah, it seems like...
Everyone's had enough.
Right. They specifically mention Alessia Cara's tweet, and for her, this is personal.
Right.
She collaborated with Liam on several projects, so seeing TMZ exploit his death in this way undoubtedly struck a chord.
Yeah, and it speaks volumes when someone who knew Liam personally feels compelled to publicly condemn a media outlet's actions.
Oh.
It demonstrates the severity of the transgression and the genuine pain it's causing.
Exactly. And Hit Channel doesn't shy away from outlining the main criticisms levied against TMZ. Polishing those graphic photos, prioritizing sensational details over respectful reporting, and even using Liam's tattoos to confirm his identity before authorities made an official statement.
It's as if they threw all journalistic ethics out the window in their haste to be the first to break the news, completely disregarding any respect for Liam or his family in the process.
Yeah, it's a blatant disregard for the basic human right to privacy and dignity, even in death. And it speaks to a larger issue within tabloid journalism that needs to be addressed. And it's not just about respect for the deceased, it's about the impact on the living. Liam's family, his friends, his fans. They're all grieving, and this kind of coverage just pours salt on the wound.
It's beyond awful. And Hit Channel brought up a point that really stuck with me. Liam's son, Bear, is only 7 years old.
It's difficult to even fathom the kind of long-term impact this exposure could have on a child so young.
Imagine being his age and having to confront these graphic images and narratives surrounding your father's death. It's a heartbreaking thought, and it underscores the need for more responsible reporting, especially when children are involved.
Absolutely. This situation speaks to a broader pattern of tabloids prioritizing sensationalism and profit over ethical reporting and basic human compassion.
It feels like a race to the bottom sometimes, with outlets trying to outdo each other, with more and more shocking headlines and content completely losing sight of the human cost.
You've hit on a critical point. This clickbait mentality, as it's often called, incentivizes a constant need to grab attention, often at the expense of accuracy, sensitivity, and respect for the individuals involved.
So how do we break free from this cycle? What can we as media consumers do to encourage a shift toward more ethical and responsible reporting, particularly when it comes to sensitive topics like suicide?
That's the million-dollar question, and it requires a multifaceted approach.
Mhm.
First and foremost, we need to become more conscious consumers of media.
So not just passively scrolling through our feeds and clicking on whatever grabs our attention.
Exactly. We need to be critical of the content we consume. Ask yourself, is this article or segment exploiting someone's pain for profit? Are they sensationalizing a tragedy? Are they presenting a balanced perspective? Or is it all just clickbait headlines and emotionally manipulative content?
It's about being mindful and discerning, not just passive consumers being bombarded with whatever pops up on our screens.
Precisely. And when you come across outlets like Hit Channel that prioritize ethical journalism and treat sensitive topics with care and respect, support them.
So we have a role to play in shaping the media landscape by choosing to support outlets that align with our values.
Absolutely. Our media consumption habits send a powerful message. If we consistently engage with exploitative content, we're essentially telling those outlets that this is what we want.
But if we choose to support outlets that prioritize ethical reporting, we contribute to a demand for a more humane and compassionate media landscape.
Exactly. And beyond our individual choices, we can also use our voices to advocate for change. Share articles about media ethics, engage in conversations with friends and family about these issues, and support organizations that are working to promote responsible reporting.
It's about creating a collective awareness and pushing back against the normalization of exploitative journalism.
You've got it. It might feel like an uphill battle, but every voice, every action, every conscious choice makes a difference.
It's about shifting the culture, moving away from this clickbait mentality that devalues human life and suffering for the sake of profits and clicks.
Well said. And when we encounter stories like Liam's, it's a stark reminder of what's at stake. These aren't just headlines. These are real people, real lives, real emotions, and they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that we can't become desensitized to the human cost of this kind of journalism.
Right. We have to hold on to our empathy, our compassion, and use those emotions to demand better from the media we consume.
So where do we go from here? What can we learn from Liam's story and the controversial coverage surrounding his death?
That's the critical question, and it brings us to a deeper exploration of the ethical dilemmas within journalism, particularly when reporting on sensitive topics like suicide. We've seen the devastating consequences of sensationalism and exploitation, but how do we ensure more responsible reporting moving forward? That's what we'll delve into as we continue this deep dive. So stay with us as we unpack the complexities of media ethics and explore potential solutions to this ongoing challenge.
You know, it's interesting you bring up the ethics of reporting on suicide, because I remember a few years ago I came across an article about a celebrity who had taken their own life, and it was just morbid.
Yeah, it's a difficult balance to strike. On the one hand, the media has a responsibility to report on significant events, including deaths, even when they're the result of suicide.
Right, but there's a difference between reporting the news and exploiting someone's final moments for sensational headlines.
Exactly, and that's where ethical considerations become paramount.
So how do, as media consumers, distinguish between responsible reporting on suicide and the kind of exploitative coverage we've been discussing with Liam's case?
One key indicator is the way the information is presented. Responsible reporting will prioritize sensitivity and respect for the deceased and their loved ones.
So avoiding graphic details and sensationalized language.
Precisely. It's also important to consider the source. Is this an outlet known for its ethical reporting, or do they have a history of sensationalizing tragedies?
That's a good point. We should be wary of outlets that seem more interested in clicks and views than in reporting the news responsibly.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, responsible reporting on suicide will often include information about suicide prevention resources. recognizing the sensitive nature of the topic and the potential impact on vulnerable individuals.
So it's not just about what they report, but also about what they choose not to report and the resources they provide to their audience.
Exactly. It's about approaching the topic with empathy, recognizing the complexities of suicide, and avoiding generalizations or sensationalism that could be harmful.
It sounds like it requires a delicate balance of informing the public while also protecting the dignity of the deceased and considering the potential impact on vulnerable readers or viewers.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a nuanced issue with no easy answers. But by being aware of these ethical considerations, we can become more discerning consumers of media and advocate for more responsible reporting on suicide.
So circling back to where we started this conversation, it seemed like there's a growing disconnect between the public's desire for ethical journalism and the practices of certain media outlets, particularly those like TMZ.
You're right. There's a tension between the pursuit of profit and the responsibility to report the news ethically and compassionately.
And unfortunately, in the case of Liam Payne's death, it feels like TMZ prioritized profit over respect, integrity, and basic human decency.
It's a stark reminder of the very real human cost of exploitative journalism and the urgent need for more accountability within the media landscape.
Absolutely. Liam's story is a tragic reminder that behind every headline, every click, every story are real people, real lives, real emotions. And those deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, even in death.
Well said. And that's the thought I want to leave our listeners with today. The next time you encounter a news story, particularly one dealing with a sensitive topic like death, pause and ask yourself, is this information being presented responsibly and ethically? Am I contributing to the problem or being part of the solution?
Those are powerful questions to consider. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. We know this was a tough one, but these conversations are crucial. Let's keep talking, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a better, more humane media landscape. Thanks for joining us.